When Earth's finest minds detect that the far side of the moon is moving, by itself, they uncover a terrifying truth buried beneath centuries of silence. What they find could end humanity. The first anomaly came in whispers, subtle readings picked up by a lunar orbiting satellite tasked with monitoring tectonic stability on the moon's surface. A minor deviation, barely a tremor. At first, it was dismissed. "Seismic ghosting," said the report. But when the readings repeated again 2 days later, then again in increasing strength over the next month, the whispers turned into a scream no scientist could ignore. The moon's far side, always hidden from Earth's view, was shifting. Not drifting, not eroding, shifting. Dr. Ilara Voss had spent 2 decades in selenographic studies. Her expertise wasn't in alarmist interpretations but in quiet data, dust patterns, ancient craters, seismic whispers. When she reviewed the satellite footage and the gravity maps from Lunar Observer 7, she didn't sleep for 2 days. A continent-sized portion of the moon's crust was rotating against known geophysical models. A plate the size of Australia was moving at a rate of 0.5 millimeters per hour. That might seem small, until you remember that the moon is supposed to be geologically dead. Dead things don't move. Within a week, she was flown to the United Nations Space Research Directorate, housed deep beneath Geneva. "You're saying this is artificial?" the Secretary General asked her during the emergency session. "I'm saying it's not natural," Ilara replied. "Either the moon isn't dead, or something beneath it is very much alive." Within a month, a global coalition launched Project Umbra, a mission to the moon's far side, funded in secrecy and manned by an international team of elite scientists, engineers, and military support. Ilara led the science team. With her were Commander Jalen Cross of the U.S. Space Force, Dr. Rahim Adewale, a Nigerian geophysicist specializing in deep core resonances, and Lucille Takahashi, an AI specialist from Japan tasked with interpreting the moon's shifting signals. They landed at Lunar Coordinate Alpha 47, the heart of the anomaly. What greeted them wasn't a barren landscape of gray dust. It was a fissure hundreds of meters wide, snaking across the land like a scar, and from it pulsed a low-frequency vibration, like the breath of a sleeping beast. Their first descent into the crevice was met with resistance. Not mechanical, not physical, cognitive. Lucille's AI drone, Oni-3, detected a neuroactive signal emanating from the depths, something that interfered with brainwave patterns. The crew reported hallucinations, memories that weren't their own, whispers in dead languages, a sense of being observed. "The moon isn't shifting," Rahim said, analyzing the core samples from the fissure walls. "It's being peeled back, like a lid." A week into the excavation, the crew found the edge, an impossibly smooth metallic surface, 10 meters beneath the regolith. It stretched for miles. It wasn't a natural formation. It was a door, and they had just knocked. With the help of Oni-3 and a modified frequency drill, they opened a passage through the metal. The tunnel they discovered beneath wasn't like anything in human engineering. It spiraled downward, glowing faintly with a bioluminescent blue. The walls pulsed, warm to the touch, and were etched with markings, glyphs of a language that predated any Earth civilization. They walked down that tunnel for hours, descending into what could only be described as a city, a subterranean metropolis buried beneath the moon's crust. Buildings floated, suspended by anti-gravity fields. Light radiated from crystalline towers, and in the center, a structure shaped like an obsidian sphere rose hundreds of meters into the air. It was asleep. At least it seemed asleep. Ilara felt it first, a pressure behind the eyes, like static humming against her skull. Lucille's AI confirmed it. There is something broadcasting from within that sphere, a signal, Not just electromagnetic, cognitive. They called it the mind core. Lucille's team tried to decipher the signal. What they decoded made the blood drain from their faces. "It's not alien," Lucille whispered. "It's a warning." The message wasn't addressed to Earth. It was a containment protocol, written in a mathematical language so pure it could only have been engineered by something far older than humanity. The sphere wasn't a base. It was a prison. Inside it, locked beneath fail-safe codes and quantum seals, was a consciousness. A being of thought. A god or a virus. Alara didn't know which terrified her more. The signal they had intercepted, what Earth satellites had picked up, was a leak. A crack in the seal. Something was waking up. Commander Cross called for immediate evacuation. But it was too late. On the third night, Oni 3 went dark. Then came the dreams. Each crew member began to suffer identical nightmares. Visions of Earth covered in black vines, oceans boiling, the moon cracking open like an egg. Rahim was the first to collapse. He convulsed, screaming in tongues none of them understood. When he awoke, his eyes were pitch black. He tried to access the sphere. Lucille had to kill him. I think it's trying to infect us," she said, shaking, holding the smoking plasma pistol. It wasn't a virus in the biological sense. It was informational, a mimetic parasite, a thought form, an ancient intelligence that rewrote minds instead of molecules. The moon wasn't just a prison. It was a quarantine vault. The moon wasn't built by nature. It had been placed. Earth's nearest neighbor wasn't just a satellite. It was a guardian, or maybe a ticking bomb. Alara wanted to run. Lucille wanted to seal the fissure. Cross wanted to nuke the entire anomaly. But then the mind core pulsed. For the first time, it spoke. Not in words, in understanding. They all heard it. It said, "You opened the door." Cross launched the emergency beacon to Earth, encoding their final data. That night, the sphere cracked. From it emerged no creature, no tentacled beast, just a wave, an invisible pulse that passed through their bodies and instruments. The light died. The city dimmed. The tunnel behind them collapsed. Only Alara, Lucille, and Cross survived. They ran through collapsing halls. The tunnel shook as if the moon itself groaned in pain. Gravity shifted. Time bent. For seconds at a time, Alara saw herself walking backward, her own voice playing in reverse. They reached the surface just as their emergency shuttle, remotely triggered, arrived. On board, Lucille initiated a failsafe, a quantum encryption package meant to seal the fissure remotely. As they launched back toward orbit, they looked back at the moon. The scar was gone. The shifting had stopped. But it wasn't victory. It was silence. A month after their return, Cross was found dead in his quarters, having written hundreds of pages in the glyph language, none of which he consciously remembered writing. Lucille disappeared. Alara remained. She submitted a report. It was buried under 1,000 layers of clearance. Project Umbra was officially classified as a failed excavation due to environmental instability. But she knew the truth, and she could feel it. Every time she looked at the moon, she felt it looking back. Earth's tides were subtly changing. Migratory patterns were failing. Dreams of the fissure haunted populations across continents. Whispers in unknown tongues began spreading in coded forums and obscure chat rooms. The Mind Core wasn't fully awake, but it was listening, and now it knew Earth had minds. Minds it could use. Alara tried to warn them. The UN ignored her. The signals were dismissed as echoes. Until one night the moon blinked. Satellites captured it. A single pulse of light like an eye opening for the first time in eons. It had seen Earth, and it was remembering. Alara fled into hiding, determined to find others who had seen what she saw. heard what she heard. The ones who dreamed of the glyphs. The ones who woke up with thoughts not their own. She knew it wouldn't be long. The moon was not the threat. It was the seal. And the thing beneath it was coming home.